Many thanks, Simon, and many thanks to Dan Wootton for another brilliant 2 hours. I'm Mark Dolan, and this is Headliners, your first look at tomorrow's papers. Tonight, in the company of the brilliant comedians Sajila Kershi and Diane Spencer. But let's start with tomorrow's front pages. And we start with the Daily Mail. Home to her family. Her coffin brightly lit as evening fell. The Queen arrived home at Buckingham Palace for the final time earlier this evening. Also, Robert Hardman, a brilliant royal biographer, writing in the Mail, says it's not too late to change rigid plans and let millions more of us bid the Queen farewell. I'm just currently reading his biography of the Queen, and it's an absolute masterpiece. Let's have a look now at the Daily Telegraph, who are leading with the final homecoming. Family allowed to grieve in private as coffin arrives at Buckingham Palace after journey from Scotland. Of course, thousands awaiting the arrival of the late Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II at Buckingham Palace in the capital. Next up, The Guardian. Anger as Charles' staff told they may face redundancy. And queue to see lying in state could stretch for 5 miles. Crowds watch as the Queen's coffin arrives at Buckingham Palace last night. Of course, that's referring to earlier this evening. These are tomorrow's papers. After it was flown to RAF Northolt in London from Edinburgh. Also breaking away from the Queen, The Guardian covering a political story. Johnson's junk food rules under threat as Truss targets red tape. A reminder that the daily grind of politics is not far away. And next up, we've got the Financial Times. Businesses face delays to access £150 billion energy support package. And another concerning headline, US inflation rises more than expected, sparking predictions of a hard landing. Next up, we've got the Daily Mirror. Led home by lights of love. Crowds guard of honour as Queen arrives for last night at the palace. The Times, similar photograph, home to rest, with the wonderful quote from the Princess Royal, Princess Anne, of course, the Queen's daughter. I was fortunate, says the Princess Royal, to share the last 24 hours of my dearest mother's life. It has been an honour and a privilege to accompany her on her final journeys. I'll be talking about Princess Royal, the Queen's daughter, Princess Anne, on my show when I return on Friday night for Mark Dolan tonight. Daily Express now. Home for one last time. Mourners in their thousands cheer and clap as the Queen arrives at the palace. And last but not least, the Sun newspaper. Welcome home, ma'am. In the pouring rain, the Queen arrives home for the final time last night. Her coffin was driven into Buckingham Palace to be greeted by King Charles, Camilla, William, Kate, Harry and Meghan. Another deeply moving image in what continues to be a mournful and sorrowful time for the country. And those are your headlines. We kick off with the front page of the Daily Express, and Her Majesty is home, Sajila.
Yeah, can I just say, before we start, this is a real honour to be able to do like a tribute show for Majesty, the Queen, and it's been quite emotional for me. I know we've got different, kind of ways of looking at grief, but we're going to talk about it later. So I'm going to kick off the first story.
Do you care to tell me, if it's not an obvious question, why it's been emotional for you?
Because I think when there is a huge loss like this to the nation, she wasn't just like... So I've had like all my family contact me. They're global. They're all over the world and different nationalities, and they're phoning up and saying, "Oh, really sorry to just want to pay our respects," because I think we're the closest they know. And I have had afternoon tea at Buckingham Palace. So and my grand aunt, who was really important to me, all the big women in my life that were important, generations back, even going back to their homelands. They all love the Queen, always been constant. And so for her to go, it also brings up your own grief, I think. That's what it is. I think that we saw that with Diana, because it was such an orphan, she was young, it was a different thing. We knew that, and I think we talked about this in the show, that, you know, she wasn't going to be around forever, but it just felt a little bit of a shock that she had gone.
Yeah.
And I think it just triggered previous griefs that we've had, but also the unknown. We are in such uncertain times. And I have to say, I don't know about you, Diane, but I think Charles is actually, I take back what I said, I think he's really stepped up. I think he's, you know, they scrubbed up well, but he's sounding like a king. You know what I mean? He's sounding like he could lead us. But I also think she made a great sacrifice. Everyone thought she should abdicate, but I think she actually did her child a great service.
Yes.
She knew the sacrifices she had to make, and she let him live his life the way that he wanted to live it. And actually, that was the kindest, most loving thing she could have done. And I don't think people saw that before, that she actually saved him.
I think that's a really fair point. And that very smooth, elegant transition by which he became king, of course, under terribly sad circumstances. But, you know, if the Queen had stepped down early, then perhaps Charles in a few years would be under pressure to do the same. Whereas now, this guy that's been king in waiting for decades is prepared for the job, and he's got a great legacy. He can pick up on where the Queen left off.
Yeah, but also having lived his life, you know, more on his terms than he would have done had he taken the crown when he was younger, like his mother.
Yeah.
I mean, she really did have to sacrifice.
Well, perhaps this is a real, you know, positive in what is ultimately a very sad story, Diane, which is that the king is very prepared for this role now. He's had years to think about it and get ready.
Yes, and I think what's important to note is that we do have working royals. There have been many kings and queens throughout the ages who have not been working royals. They have sort of sat literally in a palace and done pretty much nothing.
Yeah.
But our royal family, they don't. They get out there, they meet people, they create charities, they do lots of work, and they interact with the public, and they work. They do work.
Like, over 300 engagements a year.
Which is incredible. I mean, what a gig list. I mean, good grief.
That's better than our gig list.
Oh, it's way better than our combined gig list.
So
like, she was hardcore gigging the whole time.
Yeah.
And now, like you said, I never thought about it that way, that she's given him, like, by continuing, she gave him a lot of extra time. You focus on your charities, you do your thing, because the second you've got this job, that's it. You're there.
Well, indeed so, and he is back at work, isn't he, Diane? Because, of course, the Daily Mail reporting that he's gone straight to Northern Ireland in order to, I guess, hammer home his commitment to the Union.
Yes, I mean, definitely. Now, so this is his first visit, King Charles III's first visit since becoming the monarch, and the public reception has been absolutely brilliant. It's been overwhelming. So there's been people cheering, long live the king. There's been everybody from sort of Girl Scout guides to local business people, local residents. Everybody's just sort of turned up, and there's been this really great feeling of warmth and connection, and there's been an acknowledgement of what Queen Elizabeth started. Thing that many monarchs never ever did. She's actually said, you know, there are sometimes you look back and the things had been done differently or not at all. Yeah. What a thing for someone in her position to say. It's incredible. So they went there and they met many people, met many people from all over the strata.
And politicians of all political hue.
They did.
And this is the point of the monarchy, that the monarchy can unite people, unite the population and unite politicians, as we saw the Queen do during the Northern Ireland peace process.
Yes, which was incredible. Incredible, considering so much, including that she lost a relative, and she still realised that, you know, her pain was everybody else's pain.
And that moment of incredible diplomacy when she appeared in the Republic of Ireland in emerald green and shook hands with the former Commander-in-Chief of the IRA, Martin McGuinness.
Yeah.
So, you know, that's, although the Queen and now King Charles were never politicised, they do have a hugely powerful, potent diplomatic role.
They do, and for her to do that, given, obviously, Lord Mountbatten, you know, that's almost like, I'm not saying that they're the enemy, but it's like forgiveness. And that's a really big message to give out, that if she can do that, knowing, and Charles as well, because he was beloved, you know, uncle to him, so he was a big...
Yeah, Lord Mountbatten was his mentor and
absolutely.
second father, really, a father figure.
Yeah, and so for him to go over now, and my heart went out to him today, it really did. I mean, he looked exhausted, so grief is exhausting, you know, you're so tired.
Yeah.
And then he's having to do this tour, meeting with people, making sure his family's okay. You know, having to address his you know, advisors.
He's doing a lot. We were worried about going through this without any ad breaks.
Yeah,
and this is 1 hour.
And he looked exhausted.
Yeah,
yeah, he did. And they. I don't know if you saw the bit where there's him in. So it's the Queen consort.
Yeah,
yes,
yeah.
Correct. Although we can call her Queen Camilla. They are officially King and Queen.
Because I don't want to say the wrong things, you know, because I'm still calling him.
You've got to be so careful.
Yeah. So they're standing in front of the two kind of royal chairs. They look like little crowns, and he looked tired, and he looked like he just wanted to have a little sit down. But then he listened to the lovely, you know, memorial that they gave about his mother, all the lovely words they said. And my heart went out to him. He just looked absolutely shattered today.
That's exactly right. And he's had a couple of human moments, which I actually encourage, you know, because I want to see the real king. I don't think we need artifice here. Quite irritated with the pen that didn't work.
Yes.
He'd also forgot the date. I mean, who wouldn't? He's just lost his mother. He has barely had any sleep. A huge logistical challenge organising his mother's funeral, plus the small matter of being the king of the United Kingdom and Northern Ireland. So he's going through a lot. However, he'll be rewarded with extraordinary scenes on Monday because fans are already camping out to say goodbye to our previous monarch.
This is from the Daily Mail, and there's fears, and I don't know why it's a fear, but 650,000 mourners waiting in 35-hour queues to see the Queen's coffin in London. They could be turned away in the line if it gets up too big. And I think it's trying to stop people from going into London. But I think this is one time where actually, you know, I can see why people want to go. So just to put it in perspective, 1 million people, I think, attended Diana's funeral back in 1997. And they're expecting similar for the Queen, if not more.
Yeah.
And they're saying that officially, I think Westminster Hall has the capacity for 350,000 to pay respect to the Queen, based on it being open 24 hours a day from 5 p.m. tomorrow till 6 a.m. Monday, the day of her funeral. But the reality is between 750,000 and 1 million people are expected to pay tribute to, and so 650,000 could actually miss out.
Yeah.
And while others are going to be still struggling on the trains, of course, you know, trains are putting on more services and stuff. And I think they're probably trying to keep the numbers down. However, if everybody is going to do, I'm thinking of going, actually. I was saying to Diana, you know, before, I was thinking it might be one of those historical moments that I think I would like to do.
Well, I mean, if you go, I would say you definitely need to be prepared. You definitely need to...
Marmalade sandwiches.
Marmalade sandwiches, preferably a chair and a flask of hot soup.
A flask of hot toddy.
Oh, ooh, yeah. Something that you know that she'd appreciate.
Yes.
Yeah. And
she likes gin, apparently. We're having a gin party for her.
Oh, that's lovely. Yeah, definitely do something she'd like.
I think it was gin. I think it was the Queen Mother, like Dubonnet. Yeah.
Dubonnet.
So I would, definitely do that if you're planning to go. Give it a go. But always remember, you can express yourself in your own way, and there is nothing to sort of stop you from getting together with other people nearby. Maybe if you want to, you can set up your own little vigil or something like that, and you can have your own candles. And I know that there are some amazing people near my neighbourhood who sew the crochet letterbox toppers.
Wonderful.
Oh, they are so cool.
Sensational. And
I had my money in you doing that, you know.
Oh,
I
wish
you
I
like
could
all those
crochet.
things.
No,
I thought,
mine would be made out of felt and they'd melt. But they did for the Jubilee. There was this stunning ones for the Jubilee. Like there was one with a little queen and a little soldier and stuff. Like I can imagine that probably in their group they may want to do some sort of little like memorial thing of their own, sort of little bunch of flowers or something. You know, you can express yourselves in many different ways and it all counts. It's all valid. If you don't manage to get there, it doesn't mean that
That's
your
true.
sentiment was any less valid.
That's
Most certainly not. And of course, there will be wall-to-wall coverage of this very sad occasion on GB News. You won't miss a moment as we acknowledge arguably the greatest monarch in our history. That will, of course, be all day on Monday, and we will preview this very sad occasion on Mark Dolan tonight on Sunday at 9. Now, let's talk about the logistical challenge, and The Guardian have written at length about this.
Well, yes. So the logistics of the Queen's funeral is the equivalent to hundreds of state visits, officials say, and these are hundreds of state visits all happening at once. So obviously when you have one state visit, you have to organise security, the cars, you have to sort of, you know, chat to people and say, right, OK, so how many people are you bringing? What do you want to do? But we're going to have about 500 people from all over the world. Like, nearly every single head of state is going to be in England.
In one place.
In one place. I really hope Batman is watching over us.
Yes, I know, you have to hope.
Keeping us safe, because it's going to be quite intense.
Yeah.
So the Foreign Office has transferred an extra 300 staff onto the task. I mean...
We're going to need a bigger ship.
We're going to need a bigger ship.
Yeah, that's it.
They're definitely going to need some extra office space. There's a lot of hot desking going on in the Foreign Office at the moment. Because obviously... you've got so many different people coming to pay their respects. I mean, it really shows you, like, throughout her reign, what a reach she had, and she met all these different people. So it's going to be quite interesting. And there's also a UN General Assembly in New York the following day, and I don't know whether this was on purpose or not, but some guests are going to sort of attend the funeral, and then they're going to literally have to quickly fly across the world to attend this meeting in New York, because these are world leaders. You know,
that's like Phil Collins when he doubled up.
What?
At,
That's right. Live Aid.
Live Aid, yeah.
Oh, what happened?
Because he did a gig in London, Live Aid, and then he flew over by Concorde when Concorde was a thing still. And
That's
then
right.
It's now become a thing
and it was
again.
when Phil Collins was a thing as well.
Yeah. I mean, Phil Collins, she's looking at us like, who is this? Who is this
not that bad.
dinosaur relic? As dinosaur-y as us.
Well, there you go. There's another national treasure, good old Phil Collins. Speaking of celebrities and public figures, do we know who's going to be attending? I mean, we know, as you mentioned, all of those world leaders, but some of the most famous people in the world will be there too.
OK, so if you would like to check out who is going to be on the guest list, then the Times have printed what their expected guest list is. Now, they have a list of attendees, including President Biden, Jacinda Ardern from New Zealand. We've got the Australian Prime Minister. We've got Canada. We've got King Felipe and Queen Letizia from Spain.
Lovely.
Which is lovely. We've got presidents from all over the place. We've got Monaco, we've got Prince Albert and Princess Charlene. So there's a real... I'm sorry, if I've not mentioned you, don't take it personally. So we've got a massive list. It's going to be interesting. I don't know who's gluten-free, and I don't know who's vegan.
No, that's a headache.
Yeah, that is going to be a massive headache. I think everybody gets a +1. Obviously, there's a couple of people who are not coming because of various world issues. Like, for example, I do not believe that President Putin is coming.
OK.
Which is quite understandable.
Yeah.
But he sent his condolences.
He did send his condolences, which was very nice. But
He's a bit busy at the moment, isn't he? He's having to revise his military plans slightly.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's back on the maps thinking, OK, well, no, let's try a different
Whilst they're
strategy,
busy
shall we?
there, yeah.
Well, this is actually in a break with diplomatic protocol. So normally you would sort of say, oh, well, I know this is going on, but you must come over anyway. But they have decided in Whitehall that, no, we're going to... No, thank you for your condolences, sir, but...
Yeah, thanks, but no thanks. I would have thought also the good and the great of the media will be present. Probably a couple of famous actors, some sports stars, perhaps from the world of racing. I think it's inevitable. You know,
do you think Lewis
rugby,
Hamilton's
football.
going?
Well, who knows? You know, or even Elton John, who has been quite close to the royal family for many years, and of course sang at the Queen's Jubilee. So I think there'll be a few celebs there too.
I think all the ones from the Jubilee will probably go because they were her like, you know, she was fans of their work.
Yeah.
I'm disappointed that when some of them have said they won't come, Iran has said no. That makes me really angry. They haven't even sent any condolences. And this is, it's like any bereavement or any funeral. You don't remember who's there, but after the event, when the dust settles, you always remember who was absent and why. And this is an opportunity for the world to come together, put all the differences aside, and perhaps use this opportunity to bring us closer together. So it saddens me that some of them haven't, but there are also some dodgy ones on the list as well. You know, the Brazil Prime Minister.
Yeah, they're going to take more than one pudding. You know that.
Yeah.
They're not team players.
Yeah.
Count the knives and forks when they leave.
Yeah.
Let's have a look at rehearsals that are, of course, being played out as we speak, Sajila. This reported in The Sun.
Yeah, this is really touching. So this is a story in The Sun, a poignant moment where King's Guard rehearsed for Queen's funeral as they marched towards Westminster in emotional scenes. So, I mean, presumably they have been preparing this for a long time. Their early mourning practice, which is known as Operation Lion, saw a black coffin placed on a hearse-drawn carriage to the King's Troop Royal House Artillery. Okay. It was then marched from there to Buckingham Palace, Westminster. I think a lot of people have seen this on TV already. Oh, you're watching the image now. And taking part in the procession, they said, it's our last opportunity to do our duty for the Queen. This is a senior officer who said this. And his officers have put in their final preparations this morning before the procession took place. And Major General Christopher Gika of the Household Division, who's responsible for organising these aspects of the funeral, says for everybody on parade, it's a once-in-a-life opportunity. It's a very sad day, but it's our last opportunity to do our duty for the Queen, and it's our first opportunity to do it for the King. And that makes us all very proud. So, yeah, great work, which is kind of the unsung heroes.
Well, that's beautifully put. Wednesday's Daily Mail has some reaction to the Queen's passing from our neighbours in the Republic of Ireland.
Yes, so the Queen's death is an opportunity to reset relations between Britain and Ireland following bitter Brexit disputes, the Irish Prime Minister Michael Martin has said, and this is from the Daily Mail. You can see the headline there, which reads, Irish PM Michael Martin says Queen's death is a chance to reset relations. So the service was obviously held. We've seen, I don't know if you guys saw it at home, but I've been watching it during the day. And the King and Queen Consort were joined with Camilla. I'm going to get tongue-tied with Queen Camilla.
It is a mouthful.
Can we just go straight with Queen Camilla?
I would have thought even Charles is struggling with that one.
Yeah, I mean, what is the consort? I don't know is that normal to put the consort in? I don't know. I should just.
No, well, I think you know she is the Queen Consort, but that we're going to be calling her Queen from here on in. Yeah. Queen Camilla, yeah.
So the King and the Queen. Yeah. So basically, that is who they are now. You know, went there. Now, obviously, there's been sour grapes since Brexit happened. But can I just say, Brexit was not the Queen's fault. It's got nothing to do with King Charles now. And so that shouldn't be a thing. But obviously, Mr. Martin, in an interview with the BBC at the Memorial, suggested that it could be a moment to repair these relations. But that's fine, but it's got nothing to do with the royal family.
But it is similar to what you were saying earlier about Iran. Because when you have the death of somebody, it can bring people together, or it can sort of fester. It can create resentment that festers. And I think that the Irish PM is hoping to bring people together. And although, like, I understand you're kind of saying, yeah, but
it's not their fault.
This is a political
thing.
It's
actually
a monarchy thing.
It's us.
What do you mean it's us?
Well, it's the people.
What
the
did
people
you
voted.
Do?
I didn't vote.
What have you done now?
I didn't vote, but it's the people that voted. So what I'm saying is that the people, obviously, I know they represent us, so that's what their role is. And yes, I agree. It is a chance to sort of mend bridges, but I just have this horrible feeling a couple of weeks from now and everyone's going to forget this and it's all going to go back to being horrible again.
Well, they might. Do you know whether the Irish Prime Minister actually used the B word? Did he mention Brexit or did he just speak broadly about Anglo-Irish relations?
When I was watching it, I didn't hear Brexit.
But I guess you feel the interpretation from the story in the Mail is that was the implication, right?
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of inferred, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like, I think... And I think just general relations, and it could obviously be relating to, you know, previous stuff as well,
But isn't that the magic role of our monarch, to sell Britain abroad and to make us more popular? By having the monarch going around and just, basically being very regal and sprinkling their magic everywhere they go.
Well, this is where, like, Queen Elizabeth, she did do that when she went to, like, sort of tense sort of places and kind of won their hearts. And that was her. She was very good at doing that. And then, of course, Diana was even, better. I mean, the whole Australia tour where, like, the Australians kind of had lost their love for the monarchy in a way, but she kind of won them over again. Of course, I'm getting this all from the Crown.
What?
Yes. A famously accurate documentary about the royal family on Netflix. Do you think, Diane, that because it's great news, the latest polls suggest the public have a very high approval rating of King Charles III, and universally he's won plaudits for how he's started, and he's spoken so well. He's going through a tough time, but people are largely admiring how he's handling this whole process. Is he box office? Does he have what the Queen's got, or used to have?
I think he is box office, but he is obviously, for many of our generation, without wishing to be too silly, even though I am a comedian, so I can't help it. He is a sequel, so obviously we want a lot from our sequels.
So is it The Godfather Part 2, or is it Jaws 2?
Or is it Aliens, or Terminator 2, far superior sequels? Sorry, I didn't say it. But my point is that I think he will bring his own flavour to it, which is important because, yes, they are... yes, it's the monarchy, but they're two completely different individuals. So it's going to be interesting to see what kind of king Charles is. We saw what kind of Queen Elizabeth was. Everybody saw it. She was patient. She was kind. She was very humble, and she was very cheeky, which was lovely. And she was super resilient, and she was able to put some really punchy words in when she needed to, but never overstepping the mark, something I've barely learnt in my adult life. So she's done brilliantly there. And it will be interesting to see. He's had a brilliantly strong start. I'm not expecting plain sailing, because I think being in a monarchy is difficult. And it will be interesting to see how he goes on, because let's also remember, he is the first person who has become king in England whilst we've had the internet and social media.
Yeah.
Never before have we had that. So never before have we had such access to the royal family. Never in our mad long history. So how they navigate that, how they navigate the sort of court of public opinion, rather than this sort of court where sort of Henry VIII is just pumping out pictures of himself, going, look how great I am. Like, it's all happening in massive sort of super focus and internet time.
Yes, I mean, one way that we may see a difference, how Charles adapts, is to be more tactile, more available to the public. Not that the Queen was in any way austere, but he certainly in the last few days, he's been, meeting well-wishers, shaking hands, hugging. He's had his hand kissed many times.
Somebody kissed him as well.
Well, that's exactly right, on the cheek. So I think that the flavour of the monarchy is about to change, and that's as it should be, because whoever's takes on that responsibility has got to do it their way. But clearly, with the templates of neutrality set by our great late Queen. And let's talk about the Commonwealth. The Times raising the question of the future of the Commonwealth.
Yes.
Post Elizabeth.
So the Times has led with a headline: King Charles warned he could face rush for the Commonwealth door. So the idea is that the Commonwealth, which was formed in 1949, was in its infancy when the Queen took her throne in 1952. So you sort of had 3 years of the Commonwealth and then the Queen's there. And so for many people, the Queen was the Commonwealth. And they've this article asked the question, what is it for? And there are some people that say, well, it doesn't really do anything because, for example, the diver Tom Daley, he said, we were doing the Commonwealth Games, but many of the other countries, they still think that homosexuality should is an arrestable offence.
Yeah.
So we don't necessarily have a lot in common with some of our Commonwealth brethren. And obviously there have been, like when Wills and Kate recently went on their tour, there were people who were saying to them, look, we're thinking of becoming a republic. And because for many, the Queen was the Commonwealth, now that she has passed on, they are sort of thinking, well, we're not sure what we're getting
What's
for our
in it for us,
membership.
and we don't even have this iconic figure at the front of it.
Yeah, so they're just kind of going, well, what's it for, really? That's sort of the root of this article.
Well, I think the Commonwealth literally was, one of the Queen's kind of, like, the most wonderful things she did. Like, that was her baby. That was something that she was really proud of. And on paper, it should be amazing because it's a leveller. So the whole point is that everybody who joins, no one's got more power. It doesn't matter whether, you've got a richer country, smaller country, bigger country. Everyone's equal on that. And I really, that's something I kind of really love. However, and I think this is obviously telling that she had so much kind of power over the Commonwealth and how everyone saw her as the figurehead, that maybe it is that they can't see themselves going beyond with Charles and they kind of stayed with her. It would be a shame if it dismantled, but I don't know what Charles has. I mean, I don't know if this article sort of did
He might win more medals.
He might win more medals.
I think that the continuing existence of the Commonwealth is tied in with the continuing existence of the monarchy. I think they need each other, and I think that it will be number one. I mean, I think the two big things in Charles's in-tray, King Charles III, will be to preserve the union of the United Kingdom and Northern Ireland and to preserve the Commonwealth. I think that if when he, hopefully many decades from now, shuffles off the mortal coil, if those two things are intact, he's done well.
And I think that's probably his mother would have advised him as well. I'm sure she would have.
Well, yeah, because, I mean, the Commonwealth, it's not an overtly political organisation, is it? And you said, and it's very egalitarian. It's a community of nations. And in principle, it's very favourable for everyone involved because it's a sort of private members club, isn't it, of countries with a shared history. There are favourable trade terms. There's obviously the great sporting event of the Commonwealth Games. Diplomatic ties. I mean, it's supposed to be a positive thing, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. I've always seen it as a positive thing, but obviously, like countries you want to leave it, they've got other. Like I said, it seems to be more not to do with the Queen, but more how is the future. And I think you've got a point there that they kind of are hand in hand. Without the monarchy, they don't have.
Do you have a suspicion that some of those leaders of Commonwealth nations that are pushing to be a republic are really just politicising this for their own domestic reasons?
I don't know why they're doing it because obviously they have got their reasons.
Seems to be a populist technique in certain countries.
I don't see it as that. I think they believe they have like valid reasons. I don't know. I don't know enough about it to sort of comment on whether they're right or wrong.
Yeah.
But I think it's important to hear them out, and maybe that's what Charles, King Charles, I have to keep saying, Charles will do. He will, maybe be the listening voice and find a way to sort of meet in the middle ground somehow.
Yeah, well, exactly, and that's got to be the hope, hasn't it? Wednesday's Independent, and she truly was a magnificent woman, Sajila.
Yeah, Independent.
Yeah, let's have a look at this. This is in relation to her great quotes, her great feminist moments.
Oh, gosh.
Was the Queen a feminist icon?
My God, of course she was. She, she's the breadwinner, and she had her man walking 5 paces behind her, like Muslim women have to walk behind their men. But no, she's amazing. Obviously they're looking at the top things that she did. This is at number one. When she took Saudi King Abdullah for a spin in her Land Rover, right? Now, this is really poignant because this is a leader of a country where women aren't allowed to drive.
They weren't.
They were. Now they're not allowed to drive. And so, was there...
No, they can now. Yeah. There was a royal decree, 2017,
Oh, you've done your research, I can tell.
Yeah, 2017. But in 2003, she took him for a drive in her Land Rover.
But were they allowed to drive in Saudi then?
Oh, gosh, no.
So that's what I'm saying.
No.
So back in 2003, they couldn't drive. That's what I mean.
Yeah.
So they couldn't drive then. So she was basically kind of like, hey, whoa, look at me, got some moves.
I love the idea that she did donuts in a Jeep.
Do you think this was a sort of pointed moment from the Queen?
So you say she's not
Was
political.
she rubbing their face in it slightly?
You say she's not political.
Was she making a point?
But absolutely, you can say something so powerful without saying anything at all, and that's what she did there. And then when she quietly oversaw the change in the royal rules of succession, like it always has to be a male, heir, but she's made it clear that it can be whoever's born first, whether it's male. That is the most feminist thing ever.
Well, exactly. Perhaps the leader of Saudi Arabia was offered a choice of the Queen or Prince Philip. He's like, I'll go with the Queen, thanks very much.
My favourite one is that she became the first female member of the royal family to join the armed services full-time. So she was a keen driver, hence doing donuts in the Jeep with King Abdullah next to her. And in 1945, she drove trucks, learnt how to repair cars in the Women's Auxiliary Territorial Service. Yes, now that is important because I don't know about you, but I've been driving along and I have had a flat. It's just come out of nowhere. And do you know what? Being able to I pulled over to the side of the road, changed my tyre, made it to the gig on time.
Wow, impressed.
Well,
Diane.
that was the thing. Like I think that you need to learn how to keep your car going. You need to learn how to change your tyres. And I love the fact that the Queen of England could do all that.
Yeah, she was fierce.
Yes,
Great.
I mean, she was a woman, certainly early in her tenure, in which the world was dominated by men, and yet she was one of the most powerful figures on the planet.
And she didn't yell and scream about it, she just did it. And I like that.
Yeah.
I like when people just do things and they don't necessarily hold up the sign saying, I'm doing it.
Yeah. She didn't start every sentence with, as a woman.
Wow.
Although I'll be honest,
Mark.
Yeah, no, I'll be honest, it's a sentence I quite often start with, as a woman. Turning away from the late Queen for just a moment, because Fleet Street have some other stories for us, the small matter of a war in Ukraine, and we've got an update, Diane.
Yes, and it's a positive update. So Ukraine has stepped up its offensive with a push east into Donbass. So just to recap, the east of Ukraine is the bit where they've had all these weird fake elections where they claim they've got this breakaway republic that's joining Russia and all this rubbish. And what is really great is actually the Ukrainian military officials have said they've taken more than 3,000 square kilometres of terrain. And President Volodymyr Zelensky has said that actually they've liberated more than 6,000 square kilometres in the east and south. And this is so important because what has happened very recently is, if Ukraine is sort of here, this is my little action. Oh, no one's looking at us. OK, doesn't matter. Right, I'll sort of audio describe it. So Kharkiv is in the sort of top right of Ukraine. And we're talking about, so now people are looking. So top right, this is where Kharkiv is. And there's this motorway which sort of goes in a southwesterly direction. And along here, you've got this little place called Izium, and you've got this other little place called Lyman, and there's the motorway. Now, down here were two bits where the Russians were, those are their supply routes. And now Ukraine, they've captured this land. So they've literally they've nearly completely cut off the Russian supply routes, which is absolutely brilliant.
So that's a win then?
It's a massive win.
Yeah.
It's really great. And do you know what? They're saying that they've been using all the stuff that have been given to them from the Western nations, all the aid, the lethal aid, everything, and they're pushing and pushing. So this is great. They're putting Putin in a very difficult position because there's now actually been some officials in Russia. There were 7. Can you imagine being an official, like a town official, like somebody who works for the council, saying, actually, I don't necessarily agree with these special military operations. Apparently now there's 20 of them. So there's sort of a growing do you really think we should still be doing this, boss? Sort of thing happening in Russia, which is great.
Also, the internet has been rife with clips on TV talk shows of commentators critical of Russia's war effort. That's on Russian TV, which, as we know, is highly censored. So it seems like things are shifting there politically at home as well. On to Wednesday's Daily Mail, and we're going to turn to the British job market. And Sajila, largely good news.
Yeah, kind of a roundabout way. So unemployment falls to its lowest level in almost 50 years, fueled by increase in people saying they are too ill to work, as pay tumbles by 3.9% compared to inflation and job vacancies fall. So unemployment has fallen to its lowest in almost half a century. But the fall's been driven by increasing numbers of people saying that they're too ill to work. So they don't say why these people are ill. So we can only suspect that maybe it's long-term illness for maybe COVID-related. Maybe it's depression, because I know like several people who've been off for long-term with, mental health issues.
Definitely.
And again, that could be like a fallout of COVID.
But also the NHS backlog.
Yes, the NHS backlog, which of course we were talking about earlier on. And it's a weird one, because although we're winning in a way, we're not. It's a weird kind of like juxtaposition of these two things happening simultaneously. And I will hand over to my learned colleague. Do you have any information on this?
Would you like a job, Diane?
Oh, I'd love a job, sir.
Please, sir.
Well, you're not available. You're far too important to us here at GB News. I mean, look, this has been one of the few positives of the pandemic, of this current economic crisis, the cost of living crisis, which is that it hasn't been paired with unemployment. When we had big problems in the 70s and early 80s, it was high inflation and high unemployment. And I would suggest that inflation, although dreadful, is the lesser of two evils in relation to unemployment.
Yes, because there is a chance that you can moderate what you're doing. I mean, obviously, ideally, you do want your wages to rise in line with inflation, because otherwise you are just having to completely restrict how you live, which is something we have all had to do and we are still doing. But having some money coming in is better than no money. But yeah, something really needs to happen to help the situation of the people who are working getting paid properly so that they can live proper
If there's
lives.
more jobs, can we not make them into like 2 jobs per person pay? Does that maths work out?
What?
So how would that work?
So there's more. So there's 20 jobs. Okay, this might not work out. I've only just thought.
So look, so 20 job vacancies.
And then we give 10 people those 20 jobs, so they will have 2 jobs each, which means they get double the amount of money, right?
Right.
Is that?
Oh, I see. Oh, I thought you were suggesting double the workload for the same money.
Yeah. So.
You've become very right-wing tonight. What's happened to you?
Oh my God.
Sajila.
No, I have not changed. I am still.
Sajila wants to bring back the workhouses.
Yeah, I was going to say, maybe we could
Whorehouses.
have these big houses where we just put, like, orphans and women in them.
Okay, that was just a thought that probably should have stayed in my head, I'll be honest.
No, well, there you go. Well, look, it's largely a good news story, although why more people are not taking up those job vacancies is a conversation for another day. Wednesday's Guardian offering a polite reminder on the cost of living crisis, Diane.
Yes, because we really all would like one. The Guardian have gone with Liz Truss' energy and tax plan will give richest families twice as much support. Now, I'm going to play the right-wing card here. I think this is...
I hand it over to you.
Oh, thank you. I'll take it. Well, you played it ever so well. It's slightly worn. So what is interesting is that because of the reverse in the national insurance tax, the hike, the energy price guarantee, the means-tested one-off payment, the support for the houses. This article is saying that the poorest tenth of people will have support of £2,200. Whereas the top tenth richest households will have support £4,700. Now, what percentage of those households' general budget is that money? Because actually, potentially, if you work it out in percentages, £2,200 to somebody who doesn't earn a lot of money is a massive help. Whereas £4,700 to somebody who does earn a massive amount of money might not be barely any help at all. So that, do you like
I see where you're going with that, and I must admit there was a part of me that did think along those lines.
Do you want the card back?
And then I thought, no, I throw the card away because hang on a minute, right? It's okay, but that smaller household has still been struggling to make do with what they have, and so yes, it might seem a lot more money, and if the bigger household is not struggling, but they're getting this money that they don't really need as much, then that's still unfair. And whatever way you look at it, every government policy seems to screw over the most financially vulnerable. That's the God's honest truth.
I think that is a very interesting point, because do you remember during the pandemic they delivered boxes of toilet roll and biscuits and bread and things like that to the most vulnerable people? And you were given an option that said, if you don't want to receive it, just tell us. And a lot of people just said, no, we're fine. Thank you so much for thinking of us, but we are okay. Now, could there be the same sort of thing for the richest 10th people, like you said, if they don't need the help? Is there a chance that they can give it back?
This was a debate we had during the furlough years in the pandemic, and bounce back loans, which were capitalised upon by many people, some of whom who didn't need them, but it's a cheap line of credit. The issue you've got, I suppose, is the wider economy. And first of all, it's simpler to give everyone support with their energy bills. It's just very easy to roll out this new cap of £2,500
wants to have
for 2 years.
Kind of win. I've done something.
You know, some of these households, well, there might be middle-income households, you know, which we perhaps a joint household income of 60 or 70,000, which is a healthy amount of money. But if you were to take £2,000 or £3,000 out of their annual budget because they've got to heat their homes, that's money they won't spend on going to restaurants, buying clothes, or going on holiday. So I guess overall, it's probably good for the economy for everyone to get help so they can spend cash and we can get growing again.
I don't feel I'm sold on that. I just feel like over the weekend, I went to the reduced section, you know, the yellow stickers, and I took a couple of things. There was loads of other pensioners going, oh, is there going to be any meat out? And I thought, no, I've just got the 2 bits of salad I need. That's fine. 10 pence each, by the way, if you're asking. And I shall leave the rest for those who will need it more than me. I don't need any more than that. And I don't know about you, Diane, but I'm going to stick with that. I think we on the same... The
other flip side...
We only take what we need and not take extra.
Sure.
You're saying
the other issue
meals
we've got is...
expensive things, which those on the lowest echelons can't afford.
For sure. But then the other point is that the economy is on its knees.
It is.
And our economy, 65% of our economy is based on consumption. So we do need those who have got money to go out and spend and go shopping and, you know, be economically active. And I'm sure that this will probably help. But look, it's an interesting debate and one that will no doubt continue. Let's go back to the Queen, our late great Queen Elizabeth II. And this in The Independent, Princess Anne has made history, Sajila.
Princess Anne. I like Princess Anne.
Wonderful.
I've always liked her. She's cool. So Princess Anne makes history by standing guard over the Queen's coffin for visual of the Princess. And Princess Royal wore her ceremonial navy uniform for the event. Again, another feminist, obviously. Yeah. She's very fierce. And she made history by so basically they had all the children, so King Charles III was there with his siblings, the Princess Royal, that's Princess Anne, obviously. Is that right?
Yeah.
Duke of York, Earl of Wessex. I'm so conscious I don't want to get anything wrong. Earl of Wessex took their places in the four sides of the oak coffin, which actually looked really beautiful when you saw it.
Yeah.
It's the first time that they've had. Normally, it's left to the male family members, but it's the first time a woman's done this, which obviously in tune with her mother, making sure that women could be in line for the throne as well,
yes.
Not just a male thing. So I think that's lovely. Can we just big her up? Because she's kept out of the limelight a lot, I think, out of choice. And she's just brought her children up as kind of normally, as I think you can under those circumstances. She earns her own money and she's just cool. Why can't we, see more of her?
I wonder whether an elevated role for the Princess Royal might be appropriate. Do you think that Charles might make that happen, Diane?
I think this is a discussion that no doubt at some point they will have. I mean, again, is this part of the new way of how King Charles is going to do things? Is he going to be more of a collaborative sort of monarch? Because although we had the Queen and many working royals, we always had the Queen sort of full stop, then the line, then everybody else. But perhaps King Charles will sort of decide, no, I want to bring other people in on this, and we'll see a lot more teamwork, or maybe not, who knows? I mean, but it was...
I think we're getting an indication of that might happen, because the fact that he's involving the whole... I know it's a funeral and everyone's going to be involved, but it very much feels like the family are coming together, and that maybe there are plans, so I think you're right, there could be a more collaborative, kind of family, which would be really charming to see.
I agree. I mean, I think Prince Andrew is a lost hope. I don't quite know what's happened to Edward, so I think all eyes on Anne. But watch this space. Can we talk about royal titles? This is a story in the Telegraph, Diane.
Yes. So there is a question about Sophie, the Countess of Wessex, potentially gaining a new title if Edward becomes the Duke of Edinburgh. So the reason why the eyes are on Sophie is that Sophie has been considered a safe pair of hands. They're part of the team of the new sort of, they keep calling them the slimmed down working royals.
Is it a diet?
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Can we try this diet?
You do a public engagement, you have a milkshake. You do a public engagement, you have a salad. But the late Prince Philip said that he requested that his youngest son would be given the title. So that would go to Edward. But it went to Charles, and Charles sort of, King Charles agreed. But now, sort of, King Charles may still retain the title of Duke of Edinburgh. But the thing is that I think he may be a little bit busy being king. But that's just me. We're all different. I mean, he might be able to multitask better than I can.
Well, you have to wonder, don't you? Yes, I was reading today that the Queen apparently was very, very fond of Sophie.
Oh, immensely so. They got very, very close because, sadly, Sophie lost her mother to stomach cancer. And the Queen sort of just stepped in and was there for Sophie, and they developed this really lovely bond. And there was a lot of affection between Sophie and the Queen. And so the idea that Sophie might become the Duchess of Edinburgh kind of sort of sits nicely in the heart.
I think that's right. I think that's right. And perhaps that does give Edward a new role, because I feel he's been the anonymous royal, maybe not of his own making.
He does things.
Perhaps Charles needs to think about his role and put him on the map so that he can do some of the heavy lifting.
Yeah, and just like the Queen did a lot for women, so does Sophie.
Yeah.
So she sort of she has worked with sexual violence victims. She's travelled to countries that have been affected by conflict. She founded the Women's Network Forum. She has campaigned for charities for the blind and visually impaired. She really goes for charities and causes that really mean something to her. She's not going for what's fashionable. She's going for something that means something to her. And what a great person to have.
She had a career before she became a royal, so she was her own woman
person,
in her own right.
Yeah, there you go. Prince Edward there, somebody rare in the royal family for choosing the right partner, at least among the younger siblings. On to the Mirror next, and the late Queen's passing has affected Heinz ketchup. Diane, I'm intrigued.
My word, yes. So, as we all know, Heinz ketchup may be forced to change the iconic sauce bottles following the death of the Queen. So when you there are several brands. You know, you have your ketchup, your Weetabix, your all sorts of things.
Yeah,
and they've got
mayonnaise.
Mayonnaise. And you've got that lovely little sort of by royal appointment thing. And you go, yes, I will be eating the same ketchup as the Queen today. Thank you very much. Well, because the Queen has sadly passed, according to the Royal Warrant Holders Association, that means that now the warrant is void. So, ketchup makers, start your engines. Essentially, now, all of the brands need to reapply. So Twinings Tea, Fortnum & Mason, Waitrose, everybody has to, even Harrods, they have to get up there with the screwdriver. They go, Gary, Gary, have you got the drill? They got to put the ladder against the front of Harrods. They go, take down that thing, and then they have to reapply, and they have to prove that they are actually supplying the royal household because King Charles.
Isn't that wonderful? Well, by royal appointment. Sajila Kershi and Diane Spencer, thank you so much. Headliners is back tomorrow. The brilliant Andrew Doyle will be hosting. I'm back on Friday, Saturday and Sunday for Mark Dolan Tonight. See you Friday at 9.